Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I'm here to talk about the main event for UFC on ESPN 59, Rose Namajunas versus Tracy Cortez. Tracy is stepping up on short notice here, replacing Macy Barber, but she's still in good shape. She was scheduled to fight in a week, I think, a week after this event. So she should be close to peak condition. But this is a 5 round fight, and that could be the difference maker, especially because one of the few potential weaknesses, I say potential because there are no known weaknesses of Tracy Cortez, but one of the things I've seen is her slow down here and there in this fight or that fight. And taking a fight against a prime Rose Namajunas who's scheduled to go 5 rounds and having those extra 10 minutes of fighting to worry about, I'd say circumstances definitely favor Rose Namajunas. But Tracy Cortez, she's got a record of 11-1, and nine of those 12 fights have been decisions, and all of those decisions are victories. Her one loss is by submission in her debut. But the point is, she's a girl who, more than most, even more than most female fighters, is comfortable fighting the hard 15 minutes. And I think she'll give Rose a good battle here. I am picking Rose to win, but right when I saw this matchup, I saw potential for Tracy Cortez. I consider her one of the best prospects slash contenders out there, and she's definitely a beast of a grappler. Not bad at all on the feet. I think I've underestimated her striking in the past, and she's got slick hands. But on the ground, that's her bread and butter. She's a beast of a wrestler, and she's got excellent grappling. Again, her one loss is by submission, but she's definitely got good jujitsu, even though she only has one submission victory herself. But the one loss I'll just address right off the bat here. It was in her debut. It was 7 years ago to Sherry Maraski, who's a good fighter, not a world beater, but a good fighter. And she got her out of there with a guillotine in round two. Tracy, who was inexperienced, was pressuring her and doing well. She was in her face, wasn't dominant with the wrestling like she is in most of her matchups, but she was still pressuring her and trying to out wrestle her. And then in round two, she got a little lazy and got caught with a guillotine choke at the end of round two, and was caught and tapped. She ended up tapping on the ground, but it was all set up on the feet. And again, she had no experience there, and since then, she's been on an 11 fight winning streak. She's had a few tight decisions. Erin Blanchfield in the fight before she got to the UFC. She beat Erin by split decision. Really could have gone either way. I'll be honest, I thought it should have gone the other way. But she still showed, at the very least, she could compete with somebody like Erin Blanchfield, and she showed with her victory she can outpoint her, scratch and claw, get top position, and that was ultimately the difference maker, or the difference, I should say. But I thought she lost. I thought round one, she spent a lot of time in an armbar from Erin Blanchfield, who set it up right away after conceding the takedown. And in round three, Erin Blanchfield put her on her ass and was all over her, advancing on her, had her in a tough arm triangle choke in the final minute of the fight. And Tracy Cortez handled that very well. I mean, she didn't escape and pop up and whatever, but she survived. And in the end, she had enough success banked in rounds one and two where she ended up winning a split decision. Her other split decision was against Justine Quiche 3 years ago. Wow, this girl's very inactive, Tracy Cortez. She has one fight a year. But in that fight against Justine Quiche, it really could have gone either way, but overall, Tracy got the better of her with her grappling. It's just, it was really dominant for her in round one, a little less dominant in round two, and a little less dominant in round three. And Justine Quiche was perhaps slightly getting the better of the striking, although Cortez was still handling herself well. But that's it for her two split decision victories. The rest are all unanimous decisions, and some of them are close fights as well. I thought the Jasmine Jazdavicius fight could have gone either way. I think when I first saw it, I said, yeah, Tracy won. I rewatched it and I said, yeah, Tracy won, but it was pretty damn close, and Jasmine definitely had success. And that could have been a bad matchup with her being a bigger wrestler. That could have taken away the danger of Tracy Cortez, but it didn't. I mean, it did, but on the feet, Tracy Cortez had more going on, and her striking carried her to a victory. But yeah, there's not a lot of doubt in Tracy Cortez. I consider her right there with the very best of these prospects. Erin Blanchfield, Macy Barber. I think she's right there with the rest of them. She could be the best of all of them, for all I know. And she could definitely win this fight if she's able to out-grapple Rose Namajunas, to wrestle her. Tracy Cortez is a slightly different version of Carla Esparza, but they're definitely in the same lane. And when I talk about Carla Esparza, I'm imagining the first loss of Rose Namajunas, not the second loss in the worst fucking fight ever. I guess Tracy can win that fight as well, but whatever. Let's pretend that fight never happened. But yeah, the reason I'm picking Rose Namajunas is, of course, she's got 5 round experience, and of course, she was prepped for 5 rounds. And despite having a much shittier record of 12-6, she's only lost to the very best championship fights or championship level opponents, like Manon Fior, the last girl to beat her, and that was almost a year ago. And that fight, I thought Rose definitely lost, but it was one of those deceptively close fights, kind of like the striking version of Tracy Cortez versus Jasmine Jasdavicius. Rose has been finished once by TKO or knockout and once by submission. The submission comes to Carla in the first fight, a round 3 rear naked choke in the ultimate finale. And the one knockout is from the slam to Jessica Andrade. It wasn't a failure of her chin or anything. It was just a fucking man power bombing her. No offense to Andrade. I'm sure she can handle it. But that's it for her being finished. The rest is her being outpointed. She was beaten by Tisha Torres back in Invicta, way back when, in 2013. And she avenged that loss in the UFC, although that was a very close fight. And then in the UFC, she lost to Karolina Kowalkiewicz, Carla, Manon Fior, and Jessica Andrade. And Carla the other time as well. So she's only lost to an elite class of fighter. She's still only 32 years old. And even though she's looked a little sloppy as of late, especially the Carla Esparza rematch, just an utter shit performance. And then she looked fat and flat in the grappling match against Jillian Robertson, who strangled her in 30 seconds or whatever. That wasn't such a good look either. But I thought Rose returned to form against Amanda Hebosh, even though she didn't look so dominant there and that was much more of a grindy victory. It was still a good 5 round performance for her. And I say it didn't look dominant. I thought she won 4 rounds. So she looked dominant enough, I guess. But she's looked better. And here against Tracy Cortez, I think it could be difficult to look good, especially early. Tracy's a beast of a wrestler. She's the same size as Rose. And her striking, while Rose has seen better strikers for sure, Tracy's got some really good hands, really good boxing. And I think she's going to be in Rose's face, and it'll be close early on. But I'm picking Rose to outlast Tracy Cortez. I'm picking her to stifle the wrestling, if not out wrestle Tracy herself. I think she can do that down the stretch, maybe. Rose's wrestling has come alive in some of these important fights. 5 rounders against Wei Li Zhang, especially, and Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Speaking of which, Rose only has 2 knockouts altogether in her entire career, 2 knockout victories, and they're both in championship fights in the first round over Wei Li Zhang and Joanna Jędrzejczyk. 2 of the best victories ever, and those are 2 knockouts. Not bad at all. But as far as finishing goes, her big threat is on the ground. She's got 5 submissions, which still isn't a lot, and her last submission is over Michelle Waterson 7 years ago. But Rose, I still have a lot of faith in her jiu-jitsu. I think she's really good down there. And I can't say I can't say I expect her to submit Tracy Cortez. I don't. But I would give the first submission to Rose Namajunas, believe it or not. Even though Tracy is a thorough grappler. But I think Rose Namajunas is a better polished submission artist. She's the girl that's put away more girls via sub, and she's put away a higher level of girls. Joanne Calderwood, Rhonda Marcos, Michelle Waterson, Paige Van Zandt. All right, maybe that wasn't so impressive. But still, she's the better finisher, and she's more proven. So I'm thinking this fight will be close at first, but in the end, I expect Rose to take over. And I think I would have picked this exact same fight if they were both scheduled for 5 rounds and if Tracy Cortez had a 5 round camp. I think Rose is going to kind of next level her. But I haven't bet on her. I'll wait for the props. Maybe something will jump out. But this is one where I'm really staying away. I think Tracy Cortez can bring a potentially bad matchup for Rose. And I also think Tracy Cortez, on the downside, she doesn't have a lot going against her. Again, a couple of close decisions and that one guillotine choke in her debut 7 years ago. So the pick is Rose Namajunas wins by decision. I'll wait for the props, but I think in general I'm staying away from this, and I hope we get a good main event. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit, and check out my other videos.